And good afternoon to all of the attendees. My name is Mike Dominguez. I'm with VIA's Government and Community Relations Office. And with me today is Sylvia Castillo, who is the manager of our Paratransit transportation services, otherwise known as VIA Trans. And so we're very happy to be with you this afternoon. We do kind of miss being there in person because, as I recall, usually there's pizza. The last few times that we've been there in person, we've enjoyed some good Domino's pizza. So we certainly miss that. But we hope to be able to see everyone in person again soon. As Sheila was mentioning, as we go through some of the information that we're going to share today, if at any time you have a question or a comment, I believe you can just raise your hand or place the question in the chat box, and Sheila will alert us to those questions, and we'll answer them at that time. And so how it's going to go today is that I'm going to start off the presentation kind of with some information, some general information about VIA and some things that that we are in the midst of right now with regard to service, with regard to some of the capital projects that we have going on. And then we'll turn it over to Sylvia to provide sort of the latest information about what's happening with our paratransit service and things like that. And we'll get through this. We anticipate this might take about an hour. I know that there may be a 2-hour block of time on the calendar there, but we don't expect this to go more than an hour. And so, again, we appreciate you taking the time and the interest to participate in today's information session. And so we are going to start off with kind of what we call just a little by the numbers. And so, you know, with the exception of last year, we sort of lost, of course, 2020 with everything that occurred. And so with regard to our ridership, these stats are coming from 2019. But you know, we're providing a tremendous amount of passenger trips on an annual basis, over 36 million in a typical year. Of course, 2020 was anything but typical. We are slowly recovering. We did lose a good amount of ridership through the COVID period, but as the city is beginning to recover, VIA's ridership as well as beginning to recover, and we've got some efforts underway right now to sort of rebalance where that demand is and how best to meet it. As you see, we have a number of transit centers and park and rides, 92 bus routes. Currently, we still do have some bus routes that are suspended. Last April or so, May, we went to what we call the Essential Service Plan, again in a response to what was happening in our city with regard to COVID. Several routes were suspended. Some of those routes have come back, but we still do have a number of routes that are currently suspended. All of that information can be found on our website at viainfo.net. Pretty much anything that we're going to cover today, and any questions or anything that you would like to know exactly what's happening with VIA, we certainly encourage you to visit the website at viainfo.net. It's a great resource of information. We serve a number of what we call member cities. These are suburban cities, make up the greater Bexar County area and our 1,200 square miles. And we call member cities places like Balcones Heights, Alamo Heights, Terrell Hills. Those are what we're considered member cities. They pay into the VIA service area, and we provide transportation to those areas. Some cities that are surround us that are not part of our service area that we routinely get questions about why aren't we providing service to are places like Windcrest, Selma, Live Oak. Those cities have chosen to not contribute a portion of sales tax to fund public transit, and therefore there is no service out there. A lot of times we'll get a question. They'll say, "Well, yeah, there's no bus service out there, but why can't you provide paratransit, or why can't you provide via transit out there?" Um, well, via trans and the bus is a parallel system, and so when there's no bus service in an area, there's going to be no via trans service in that area either. And so that's why some of those surrounding cities, again, like Windcrest, like Hollywood Park, Selma, receive no service, is because again the city itself has chosen um, that to not be part of the via service plan. So we've got over 500 buses in our fleet. Of course, all of those buses are fully accessible to persons with, regardless of what the disability may be, whether it be a mobility uh, impairment, vision impairment, deaf or hard of hearing impairment. These buses are set up to meet all of those specific needs. With regard to mobility, of course, they all have low floor and wheelchair accessible locations within every one of our buses. The buses do speak, and so if someone is visually impaired or blind, these buses will announce themselves on arrival. They announce intervals along the way at different stops, announce themselves as they approach a stop, again, so that if someone is visually impaired or blind, they know exactly which bus is in front of them and exactly where that bus is along its route. For those that are hearing impaired or deaf, obviously we have the destination signs that are in front. If you cannot hear inside of the bus as well, there's a little marquee that scrolls across messages that are being announced. So again, if you cannot hear those messages, you're able then to see those messages. There's our Via Trans fleet. That number may be a little off, but it's typically somewhere in the 130, 140, 150 Via Trans vans. We did procure some new Via Trans vans, and I believe Sylvia might talk about those a little bit. I've heard some great things already from some Via Trans customers about those vans, and so it's great. Usually when we're out procuring those vans, we do take comments from the public. We listen to issues with our current fleet and some of the concerns or some of the complaints that our customers have with fleets as we upgrade. And so each new procurement, I think that we address those comments to the extent that we can to make, again, that experience a great experience for everyone.
Yeah.
We have right now
Yes.
over 2,000 employees
Yes.
that make up our workforce. Almost 7,000 bus stops throughout the service area. Again, many with shelters, benches, bus stops that are accessible. Sometimes the pathways to and from those stops may not be fully accessible, but the stops themselves are considered accessible. And we currently operate one mobility on demand zone out in the northeast part of the city, known as Via Link, and we'll offer more information about that shortly. Probably many of you know what our fare structure is, but for those of you who may be new to the system or new to the city, our mainline bus fare is $1.30, which is a great price. If you have visited other areas and used any public transit, you'll realize that $1.30 is a pretty good price to get from one side of town to the other. We do offer several reduced fares. That reduced fare is basically half price. So at this time, it's 65 cents. Our reduced fares are for children ages 5 through 13, persons with limited mobility, Medicare recipients, active duty military, all receive reduced fares. There's some information about our passes that we offer. We offer a $2.75 daily pass. We really encourage the use of the daily pass, especially if you're going to be making multiple trips throughout the day. It's a great way to just get your fare the first time, and not have to worry about fares throughout the rest of the day. All of our passes do also come with the reduced fare price, again, for those who are eligible for reduced fare. So the $2.75 daily pass is $1.35 at its reduced rate. We have a weekly pass. For years and years, we only had really a monthly pass, which we called the big pass. And we were asked several times to come up with some other fares. Not everyone is able to always come up with $38. And so they were looking to maybe do a weekly pass. And a few years ago, we finally did come up with a weekly pass. So it's $12. And these are consecutive days. So it's, 7 consecutive days, a weekly pass. $6 for that reduced fare. Our $38 31-day pass is a $19 reduced fare. And then the one pass that there is no fare reduction on is the semester pass. And this is for high school, college, even junior high students who are using the bus every day. That $38 basically gets you 7 months worth of unlimited transit for that one price. Of course, the Via Trans fare, that's all of those fares right there were our mainline bus fare. A Via Trans fare is $2 each way. We have a Via Link service that we mentioned earlier, Mobility on Demand. That's the same fare as your bus fare. So whatever it is that you pay for your bus fare is your Via Link fare. If you're a Via Trans customer, there's no charge for Via Link, as long as you're, again, traveling within the Via Link zone. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a moment. A great program that we have is Senior Primetime. If there's anyone in the audience that is 62 years or older, we do offer what we call Senior Primetime. That offers just a 25-cent fare between the hours of 9 and 3, Monday through Friday. So every Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., if you are 62 or over and you have a Via Senior ID card, all you pay is 25 cents. Also a great benefit to that program is that all mainline bus service is free on weekends. So there's never a charge for any bus on weekends, again, if you are a senior. It also offers you a reduced fare for special event service. Right now, typically, the special event is a $5 round trip, say like for Fiesta, once the Spurs kick up again, and any other park and ride event. For seniors with that card, it's only $2.50 round trip. Of course, children under 5 years of age and Via Trans customers do ride our bus service for free. With regard to COVID and just general practices, Via does maintain a very safe and a very clean fleet. That is one of the hallmarks of our service, and one of the things that we strive for each day is safe and reliable service. Along with the customer service experience. Those things are at the top of the list every day as our buses and our vans and our workforce go to provide service. It's that it's safe, that it's reliable, and that it's customer friendly. Many of you might know that there was a 16 passenger limit, which was adhering to some of the CDC guidelines and with regard to social distancing. A few weeks ago, Via did lift that 16 passenger limit. And so that has ended. There is no longer a 16 passenger limit to any of our buses. We are running at full capacity. However, as you use a bus or a van, masks are still required. This is per federal law that all public entities, it's not just a Via, it's not just a requirement here in San Antonio. It's a requirement for all public transit entities across the country that masks be worn when boarding, when riding any one of our buses or any one of our vans. And again, just with regard to cleaning and sanitation of the buses. These vehicles and our facilities are cleaned thoroughly each day. Um, Through the COVID period, we actually stepped up that cleaning. Many of you might have witnessed firsthand at some of the busier bus stops, and certainly at our transit centers, and maybe on a routine basis throughout the day on some of the vans that folks were actually boarding those vehicles and cleaning. We hired some staff to provide that service for our customers, for our operators, to ensure they're operating and that our customers are riding in vehicles that were being maintained, being cleaned throughout the day. And so we actually have folks continuing to this day boarding vehicles at certain locations, wiping down the most commonly used areas, the handrails when you board, the fare box, some of the railing on some of this on the seats. Those areas that are high touch areas are routinely being cleaned, and we see that continuing for the foreseeable future. I did want to bring to the group's attention that as the city recovers and as VIA continues to recover and rebalance our service, we do have some changes coming up that are going to take effect August the 23rd. And again, you can find more of this information. We actually held a couple of public meetings, well, probably about a month ago now. And hopefully some of you were able to attend those. These were virtual meetings that were held online. We did an English meeting and we did a Spanish meeting regarding August service changes. These changes are due to take effect August the 23rd of this year. If you were to visit the VIA website at viainfo.net, you could actually view the presentations that were made during those public meetings. They're online. They're available for anyone to view, 24/7. They're up there. The map that is on the screen are the bus routes that were being addressed during this recovery and rebalance proposal that we made for August. And some of the more routes of note, our service changes of note that you should be made aware of is that along 281, we are going to be combining routes 6 and 7, which are express routes from the Stone Oak Park and Ride into downtown. We're going to be combining those into just one route, which would be Route 7, which provides service from Stone Oak, Park and Ride Express to downtown, and then out to Brook City Base. And we'll be providing that service 30 minutes, every 30 minutes from Stone Oak to downtown, and then on to Brook City Base. The other change of note that we'd like to make you aware of is that the Broadway routes, Route 9 and Route 10, will also be combined. We're going to combine those into one route, which would be route number 10 now. The route number 10 will service the Broadway corridor and Nacogdoches area every 15 minutes. The route will continue through downtown as route number 43. The other change of note we want to make you aware of is that the Express 17 and 93, we've had several requests. Again, due to COVID, we changed some of those frequencies. Those buses used to run every 30 minutes. They went to once an hour. We're bringing back some of those frequencies, and the 17 is again one of those routes where we're going to return frequencies to every 30 minutes. The 17 is express from 35 from the Randolph Park and Ride into downtown and then out to UTSA main campus, downtown campus and main campus. And we will again increase the frequency, which is currently running once an hour, to frequencies that will be every 30 minutes. So some of these Again, all of these changes are available to view on VIA's website at viainfo.net. And again, the presentations are up there, so you could actually listen to and watch along or listen along to the public meetings that were done about a month ago. I'm sure many of you by now have heard about Keep San Antonio Moving. And through COVID, this plan was sort of designed. It was a pivot that we made. We had a lot of plans, and we still have plans to improve service for the citizens here in San Antonio. Keep San Antonio Moving sort of came about again as a result of COVID and sort of a reprioritization of how we're going to deliver service based on the environment that COVID presented us, based on some of the funding challenges that we had. And so the plan was developed with some community input. It was, again, a pivot from some long-range plans that have already been developed, again, through years of public input. And it's a plan that's going to improve transit. It's designed to improve mobility network. And it's certainly a plan that contributes to the economy, again, as we recover, and to the growth that we know, the population growth that I'm sure each one of us notices as the months and as the years have passed by. We're noticing, the increased amount of traffic that we see on the streets, and just we're hearing every day about, the more and more people that are calling our beautiful city home. And so there's three main pillars or things that we'd like you to keep in mind about the Keep San Antonio Moving plan. The first thing is that it intends to improve the system, overall system, connecting more people with more places, offering more frequent and in turn reliable service with focuses on innovation. And so, as you just mentioned some of the August proposals, more frequent service is returning. And that's something that you'll continue to see throughout the coming years, is a return to and an emphasis on more frequent service. We want to expand the mobility options with the Keep San Antonio plan, making more trip options available to fit different and specific needs. And that's exactly what mobility on demand does. And we'll again cover that here in just a moment. And then the third thing about the Keep San Antonio Moving plan is that we want to invest in capital and technology. And so what you'll see in a moment is some new facilities that we have planned, some upgrades to some existing facilities. With regard to technology, some new applications that are available, updating our Go card and our payment methods, and then very importantly as well, advancing studies for advanced rapid transit corridors throughout the city. And so, as we mentioned about improving the system and returning frequency, this chart that's on the screen now is why that's important. This was a survey, I should say, that was done by the Alamo Metropolitan Planning Organization that asked people, what their interest would be, what would be the likelihood of them using transit at particular frequency levels. And so from 1 to 10 to 12 minutes or so, the likelihood of people that were surveyed that they would consider and that more than likely they would use transit is almost 85% of the community that would use transit if it was running at those 1 to 12 minute frequencies. As you get to 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you've got about 65% or so people that would be interested and that are likely to use transit. As you drop those frequencies to 30 minutes and and more, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, the level of interest and the likelihood that someone would use service falls off dramatically, all the way down to just over 1% of people that were surveyed that would use service that's running every 60 minutes. 5% of the people that are interested are likely to use transit if it's running every 30 minutes or above. And you can see why frequency is so important, and we're striving to provide more frequencies, because right now, almost 60% of our system operates in that 30-minute or greater frequency level, which means that 20% of the community are the people that were surveyed for this, which makes up probably a good part of what the community's likelihood is as well, is interested in using transit. And so we have to address that. And we're committed to addressing that again through the Keep San Antonio Moving plan. And so with regard to frequency and improving the system citywide, the chart here is showing that 2% back from 2017 to basically till about now, only 2% of our system operates in that very desirable 10 to 12 minute range of service. You see that 23%, almost 75% of our system is operating at 30 minutes or greater. And again, that's service that people, really aren't attracted to. And so as we move over these next coming years, we want to get to a system that increases, that has at least a quarter of our service, 15 to 20% operating at those 10 to 12 minute frequencies, and that the rest of the system operates at least 30 minutes. There's nothing greater than 30 minutes frequency throughout the rest of the system. That's what our commitment to the city, to the citizens is as we continue to implement the Keep San Antonio Moving plan. We were blessed to be fortunate enough to find that the majority of citizens agree that VIA deserved more funding last May. Once that funding kicks in about 5 years, it will take a while, but once it does kick in and leading up until that time, we're going to do everything possible to start getting service into those levels of frequency again, where people are likely to use the service. Just improving the system again overall. That second focus area about expanding mobility options really is concentrated on mobility on demand. I hope that some of you are familiar with the VIA Link program. It's been around for about maybe 2 years now. We started it. There's only one area that currently has mobility on demand, and that's the northeast part of the city. We used to have bus routes running in this area that really didn't perform to levels of other service throughout the rest of our service area. And so, in the past, really the only option would have been to eliminate the service. And that's really not something that we want to do. We realize that there are still people out there that we're utilizing and that depended on public transit, and we did want to offer some services to them. One way to do that, and something that cities were experimenting with across the country, was sort of an Uber Lyft type service operated or managed through public transit system, and then using a third party provider like a taxi service to actually provide the service. And so we experimented with that, where we removed bus routes. Now, we didn't remove any of the workforce, and that's I know that's a comment or a concern that many folks have, is that by doing this, that we eliminated jobs, and nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, as we talked about earlier, increasing frequency on routes, and we'll continue to increase frequency on routes. Well, when we increase frequency, obviously we need people to operate those increased frequency routes. We're adding more buses, and in turn, we need the people to operate those buses. And so it's sort of a shifting of how we provide service. So once again, no jobs lost because of this type of a service. But the service itself operates basically in the same hours of service that buses were operating out there, about 6 in the morning to about 9:30 at night. It is a service that operates only within a defined zone. So the service does not operate outside of the Via Link zone. It does provide trips to any address within the zone. And then for those folks that need access to other buses and are maybe traveling to other places, well, Via Link takes them to our Naco Pass transit area, where then they have access to other buses coming downtown, buses going across Thousand Oaks to the malls and so forth. The service provides them a trip there, and then they're able to access bus service. But Via Link trips are arranged through an app, a Via Link app, or folks can just simply call and make reservations. The service again is operating 7 days a week, and is available for anyone that is in that zone. If you're coming from outside of the zone on a bus and your ultimate destination is within the Via Link zone, well, you would make a reservation. You would book a trip, again, like an Uber or Lyft type service on the app. You would book the trip from the Naco Pass area to, again, any address within that Via Link zone. Our commitment is that Via Link vans would be there within 30 minutes. So once you request a trip, a van arrives within 30 minutes. In fact, what we've seen is that on average, folks are waiting about 10 to 12 minutes after they book the trip before the van even arrives. And I know what some of you might be thinking is, man, why can't we do that on Viatrans? Well, one of the reasons, and the main reason, is that the Via Link zone itself is a relatively small zone. It's about 300 square miles. And the vans that are providing service in that area are dedicated only to that zone. They are not traveling outside of that area. Paratransit service, by contrast, we've got about, again, over 1,200 square miles with folks traveling from one end of the county potentially to the other end of the county. And so those, it's, and there are many more people using paratransit, than Via Link. And so as we, the paratransit system is becoming more efficient every day. But that's the reason why, and we've gotten that question a lot, is, why am I able to book a trip and, the van's there in, 10 to 15 minutes? Well, that's the reason, because again, we're talking, a few hundred people, again, versus several thousand people, several thousand trips on paratransit. And the area that Via Link serves is a very small, defined area, and the vans do not travel outside of that zone. They're dedicated to service only within that Via Link zone. As it relates to Keep San Antonio Moving and expanding this option, we have 2 zones that are planned to launch later this year. So this service, again, has been very successful. We've gotten rave reviews from the customers out there who weren't quite sure how it was going to operate. They were so used to just getting to that bus stop. And even though the buses ran once an hour, and we told them that, hey, you're going to have trips, available to you really anytime that you need it, not just once an hour. They were still reluctant about the service itself, but it didn't take them long to realize what a tremendous service this is. And so, and it has saved the agency, which is, again, we're, funded by taxpayer funds. And so in a sense, all of us as taxpayers benefit from this because it actually costs less than it was costing to provide mainline bus service in this zone. We're saving a couple $100,000 a year operating this service. We're then able to invest that money that we've saved into, bettering our paratransit system, into um, frequent services across the other part of the service area. So it's a win-win situation. Again, because of the success of the program, we're going to be launching a zone in the northwest area of town, basically between Northwest Vista College and the UTSA main campus along that stretch of 1604 out there. You will see Via Link service out in that area before the end of the year. Also, we'll be expanding this service to a member city of ours. It's just to the south, city of Sandy Oaks. The city of Sandy Oaks will enjoy Via Link service from the city of Sandy Oaks directly to Brooks Transit Center, where then they can use the rest of the bus system or have access again to all of the commercial and retail and job opportunities that exist right there at Brooks City base. And then finally, that third area of concentration with regard to Keep San Antonio Moving was our capital projects. You will be hearing throughout this year and the coming years about VIA investing in more transit facilities so that we are bringing these facilities and these services closer to where people are actually living and closer to where, some of these areas where population has really grown over the last few years, as well as addressing some of our current facilities that are just in need of upgrade and enhancement. And so later this year, the first two that are scheduled to be kicked off is an upgrade to the Randolph Transit Center. They're at 35 and 410. You will see a new facility being built there, increased shelter opportunities, and increased areas where and access to our buses and our vans and just an overall better experience. Also later this year, we'll continue the upgrade that we started about a year and a half ago on the Naco Pass Transit Hub, creating a safer environment out there, especially for our customers that may be having to cross the street, and upgrading the area. We've upgraded it with a couple of shelters. We still have a couple of shelters that are planned for that area. Again, as well as some improvements to just the pedestrian environment in general. We'll be looking at, and we are planning for facilities out at the Alamo Ranch area, an I-10 park and pool out I-10 West out to the county line out by Fair Oaks, where we'll be partnering with Alamo Community Colleges on a facility out there. We're looking at a new paratransit facility at just north of 410 along Fredericksburg Road. Again, as the population continues to grow, the Via Trans service in general continues to grow. The elderly and the disabled populations, the fastest growing population in our county. We're planning, and we must continue to plan for an increased use of those types of services. And really, we're the largest transit property of our size in the country that operates out of just one operations area. And so by moving some of this paratransit operation to its sort of a standalone facility, we look for efficiencies across the board. And so you can be expecting to hear information about that. Some of you may have heard earlier in the year about the HOV lanes that opened up along I-10 and the HOV lanes that will be opening up later this year on 281, which will give customers at the Stone Oak Park and Ride a travel time savings and an incentive to use bus service out of that park and ride, because those HOV lanes will basically connect folks from the park and ride straight across south of the 1604 highway, where then it would merge back into main lane traffic. But it's a time savings there, and an advantage to using bus service. So again, you can expect to hear more throughout the year. When you do hear more of these projects, again, we always encourage public participation. We want to hear your comments and your suggestions on these plans, because each one of them will be coming out for community input. So that is sort of kind of what VIA is working on now. Some of what we've been through over the last year, and if there are any questions or comments regarding anything that you've just heard, we'll be happy to address those now. If not, we'll move on to the next part of the presentation, which again will be Sylvia Castillo, our manager of Paratransit Transportation and Operations, who's going to provide some information on Paratransit. So, Sheila, are there any questions?
Yeah, I have 3 questions that came in.
Okay.
One is, will VIA be going to the Stone Oak and Hardy Oak area, to that medical center there?
Yes, we currently provide service out into that medical area, and we have been doing that for some time. And so not only bus service, but obviously Paratransit, ViaTrans service as well. So from the Stone Oak Park and Ride, we have Route 503 that provides service into down that Hardy Oak area and into the medical center that really has emerged over the last few years. So bus service and paratransit service. And over the next few years, again, we'll be looking to expand even more of our transit routes through that area. So yeah, we currently serve it, and we continue to serve that area.
Okay, and then the other one is, will there ever be a link service in the medical center?
And something I did not, and I failed to mention, I'm going to go up here. As we talk about expanding mobility options, the first 2 again that were planned are the northwest part of the city, and then down south to Sandy Oaks. But there are eventually about 14 zones that we plan as part of the Keep San Antonio Moving Plan for mobility on demand. And one of those study areas is the medical center area, where we're looking to provide some type of a Via Link type service, as well as the medical center area, Port San Antonio, and Brooks City Base have all been designated as innovation hubs. And this is a sort of a joint effort between the VIA and the city, where down the road you could be looking at some type of autonomous type vehicles that will be providing service in these areas. And so yes, the answer to the question for the medical centers, we are studying how feasible a Via Link type service would work in the medical center. But beyond that, it has a innovation hub designation, where you could be seeing, again, various types of transportation that may be available in that area.
Okay, and then the last question that came in, and there may be others that didn't send in, but will you be able to will there be a Via Link in also the other Via systems together?
Well, the Via Link zones, all of the Via Link zones will connect customers who use Via Link, will connect customers to access to the rest of the bus system. So wherever these zones once that we launch a Via Link type service, in any one of these areas that are being studied, it will connect to opportunities to, continue your trip through our, what you would call our traditional transit services, whether that be mainline bus service or whether that be a Via Trans service mode. So Via Link and mobility on demand services will operate again only in designated areas. They won't travel outside those designated areas, but each one of those areas will connect to a spot where we do have bus service already operating, which they would then connect through transferring to a bus or reserving a Via Trans ride to continue the rest of their trip if that trip is outside of the Via Link zone. If folks are just traveling, if their origin and their destination is all within the Via Link zone, well, then they can just use Via Link for those trip purposes. Via Link vans, again, are accessible. Via Trans customers can use Via Link. You don't have to just rely on Via Trans within these Via Link zones. The current Via Link area there, again, northeast part, Via Trans customers can book a ride on it. They will just need to make sure that they do mention that they do need an accessible vehicle, because not all of the vehicles may be accessible at the time that they're providing service. But if we know that someone is using a wheelchair or other type of mobility device and needs, to make sure that that van is accessible, they would just indicate that once they book their trip using the Via Link app, or once they call the Via Link number to book the trip, they would let the reservation person know that, hey, I'm going to need an accessible vehicle, so that we can make sure we send an accessible vehicle out there. By the way, those vans are also equipped with bike racks. So anybody who may be using their bike as part of their ultimate, mode, if they can request also that a van has a bike rack, so that we can send one of the vans with the bike rack on it to make sure that they can transport their bike as well. But anyone is eligible to use, if the Via Link, once Via Link becomes available in an area, it can be used by anyone that lives within that zone simply by booking the Via Link trip, using the app or calling the Via Link number. And again, there's the app that you can download, the Via Link app. Go to the your app store to download that app free, or you can always call 210-655-LINK, or again, that's 210-655-5465.
Okay, so Via Link does coincide with Via Trans in the same area.
Yes.
One or the other. Okay. And then this one says, I live by, and Maria, I don't, Kerwal? And bus runs over here, but for some reason Via won't pick me up at my house.
I live by Creewall, and the Via passes through my house, through the street, not in where I live. I have to go 4.5 blocks down, but I don't get it. It picks up across from where I live on some mobile homes, and down further down. I just don't get why in that little suburb it won't pick up in that little. I don't get it. I have to go 4.5 blocks from where I live to a friend's house to get the Via there. Why is that? If it runs everywhere else, why not just there?
Well, I'm not exactly sure where Greenwall is.
Creewell is close to Marbach, more close to off of 90.
Marbach and 90. Okay.
Yeah. I
well,
just don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. If you're at Marbach and 90.
Yes.
You're inside of Loop 410. Are you inside of Loop 410?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
And
So,
they always ask me by Pure Road. Pure Road is close by here. And the buses routes are run around here, but it just for that subdivision. Even when the VIA bus drivers were passed by, they were like, "That's odd, Miss Garcia. Why is it that we don't go in there?" I said, "I don't know. I have to go." And it would rain, and they would say, "Well, why do you have to go 4 blocks?" I think because that's the closest. But why won't they pick you up? And have you ever had a supervisor come out? I said every time I've called, they always say you're not in the area. But I'm like, or you're living Bear County. I said I pay, but I don't know what is the thing. I don't get it.
yeah, so it sounds like you're outside of 410. But the
Michael?
paratransit service will serve any address that's within 3/4 of a mile, or at least 3/4 of a mile from any bus route. And so, Maria, what's going to happen? What I'm going to suggest here is that, and this is probably the best way to go about it, is that once we end this, and I don't want you to give out any of your information, while everyone's on the line, but
Of course.
we'll maybe
Michael, I can connect. I'll give you her information.
yeah, if you'll just give us a number,
Yes.
we can contact her, and
Yes.
we'll figure out exactly and get you an explanation,
Yes.
so that you're better aware and that you understand exactly what the limitations of the service are, and why your particular address may not be served. We will certainly clear that up for you, and so we'll get your information, and then someone will be contacting you, Maria, to offer you, an explanation, so that
Yes.
there's more of an understanding of exactly what the
Exactly.
limitations
Or
are.
yes, or if there's maybe a closer spot that I can talk to a neighbor and say, hey, can I, is it okay? They'll be okay with it, but so I don't
Yeah,
have to go
so-
out four blocks down, and when it's raining and muddy, and oh no, it's a disaster.
Yeah, no, understand. And so we'll get the information. Sheila will send me and Sylvia your information, and then someone will be contacting you to get this issue resolved once and for all, so that you know exactly, again, what to expect, and
Yes.
why can't the service pick you up. There's a very reasonable explanation to that, and so we'll make
Yes.
sure that you get that. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And then I
Hello.
have 2 more questions. One, do I have to sign up for Via Trans online, or can I call to sign up?
Michael, I'd like to take that question.
Go ahead, Sylvia.
Yeah. You can get our application via our ViaTrans application online at viainfo.net under Paratransit Services. If you can't get online, you can always call our Accessible Services Department, and their number is 210-362-2141, and they will be happy to mail you an application. But you do have to fill out an application. You can't fill it out online, because you have to take it to a physician, caregiver, somebody, so they can vouch for the information about your condition.
Sylvia, can you say that number again?
Certainly. It's 210-362-2141.
Okay, I've put that in chat for everyone.
Thank you.
And then regarding the Via Pass, if it has expired, what do you have to do to get that back?
Are we talking about
Or
the
Via
pass?
Trans?
Oh, Via Trans. Okay.
Yeah, you call the Accessible Service Department. I just gave the number for, and they can figure out how to get you a new. You're talking about an ID card, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to call accessible services as well to renew their ID card.
Okay. And then the last one that just is via, oh no, there's two, I guess. There's another one right up here. Okay. What is VIA doing to get non-member suburbs involved so we can love and work there?
Well, what we can do and what we're doing is, when people who live within those non-member suburban cities request service, basically, we tell them kind of what I explained earlier is that, those municipalities, those areas, that's the choice that they've made. The residents of those cities who vote, are the only ones that can help change that. And so, what we suggest is that if people live in those areas, that they call their councilman or their alderman or whatever label that they go by within those areas, and let them know that public transit is important to them as individuals. That's really the only thing that we can do. We cannot dictate, obviously, any service in any area. That's going to be up to those elected officials within those suburban cities. And if the choices that those elected officials, that the choices that they make don't sit well with residents in that area, well, they make those they make their voices heard at at election time. Again, what we would suggest is that they attend those council meetings within those areas, and they state that their reasonings why and that they're feeling that public transit is important to these areas. That's really
Right,
all
just
that
need to
we're able to do.
self-advocate.
I'm sorry, Sheila?
They just need to be a self-advocate. And
Basically, they just need to advocate, and that's all that's really all that can be done.
okay, I'm not sure if they're talking about, they said via link, how long does it take for decision? And I'm not sure if they're talking about for the via link or to get the via transit ID card. I'm not
For
sure.
via-
In the
Yeah.
box.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I think maybe somebody didn't realize they were unmuted.
Okay. Well, for via link, again, once a trip request is made, the decision is pretty quick. I mean, the trip is within 30 minutes. We guarantee that that a van will be there. And again, as I mentioned, in fact, it's usually about 10 to 15 minutes before a van actually arrives. And so anyone is eligible for that service as long as you're within that zone. There is no determination if you're eligible or not. As long as your address is within that zone, you are eligible for service. With regard to the paratransit, by law, they have 21 days to process that application. Usually it's not going to take 21 days. Sometimes there may be occurrences where it may go beyond that. And usually that's because information is not completed that's needed on the application. And so, we'll try to ask for additional information. But sometimes a decision can't be made based on just information that's on the application. And so someone may be required or asked to come in to VIA so that testing can be done to determine, eligibility. So again, by law, they have 21 days. Typically, a completed application, won't take that long, but it may be up to 3 weeks.
Okay, so would they call the 3622141 if they have not heard anything in 21 days?
Yes, that would be the number to call. If 21 days has passed and you have not heard anything regarding your application, certainly, then they should call that Accessible Services Office and just see exactly where their application is along in the process.
Okay, and then someone asks, how do they sign up for the Via Trans cashless system?
Sylvia, can you?
That would be the Go card. We're issuing those cards out right now. So you can put money on the Go card, or you can use the Go Mobile and put money on Go Mobile. The Go Mobile is going through a change right now, so they're implementing a new Go Mobile. You can put money in Go Mobile and buy your tickets there, and then you show your phone with the Go Mobile ticket on it. So how do you get that? I think you can call our customer service and they can walk you through the steps. And their number is 210-362-2020.
Let me help you. Just put your arm and take the phone over there.
Okay, then I have, so somebody says we are a minority group. That's the problem. And I think he was referring to when, Michael, you were talking about being an advocate to getting into your area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was my comment about the voting and the 1% tax that Michael was talking about. And yeah, I mean, for those people that, especially the ones that live out in those areas, they I bet you they feel very discouraged to go out and vote because they know the councilmen are going to go for majority rules. And if the majority says, well, we don't want that extra tax, well, guess what, they're going to go for it. So, you know.
Yeah, that's that's the way it works. And again, the only thing you can continue to do is, as you do in these support groups and other things, is just continue to be a self-advocate, continue to encourage your friends and your family members to advocate for those things as well.
Right.
But we've had our own struggles. We've had our own struggles over the years as well, via as far as initiatives and getting things passed, and so we're totally familiar with things not always going as you hope and plan.
And Michael, also they can connect with their councilmen in the districts, and there's committees and such that they can get on. And anyone who's interested, they can connect with me and I can help walk you through some of that stuff that you can, because it just takes one to start the ball and then you get everybody going with you.
That's true.
One person's got to get that ball kicked out, so. I think we need to maybe move to Sylvia, because a lot of these questions probably are some of the things she was going to talk about. So if we want to move to Sylvia.
Hello. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about our service, Via Trans service, and also our commitment to providing good, excellent transportation services to our community. So the thing is that paratransit service is a federal requirement, meaning that we have to provide it under certain guidelines. So we have to meet certain standards and regulations. But this is why sometimes you think, well, why are they doing this? Well, that's because we have to kind of move the little blocks around so that we can make sure that we provide everybody in the community the service. For a lot of people, paratransit service is just the sole transportation for them in the local disability community. They rely on us to provide them service. However, we do have resources that are not limitless. But we want to make sure that we include everybody. And so we have to make sure that we plan it properly, the trips are planned properly, and we provide it in a cost-efficient and cost-effective manner for everybody. So what ViaTrans service is, I just want to remind everybody that it is curb-to-curb service with some accommodations. It's a shared ride service. Eligibility is not based on an individual's medical diagnosis, but on their functional ability to use regular bus service. Someone may have a disability, but if they're able to navigate the bus system, then they belong on bus service and not on ViaTrans service. ViaTrans service is kind of like a safety net for those individuals who cannot ride fixed route services. And like one of the requirements that we have to follow, that we do follow under Federal Transit Administration regulations, is that all trips are scheduled within 1 hour before or after the customer's requested time. Now, the reason we do this is because, let's say everybody wants to travel at 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's say there's 250 people want to travel at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, we don't have 250 vehicles to transport everybody at that time. So that's why we negotiate with people. We'll pick you up at 9, but then we'll pick somebody else at 8:45 and then somebody else at 9:15. So this way we can fit everybody on our service. Most of the time people can get their times that they want to travel. But for example, if somebody says, I have a 10 o'clock doctor's appointment, can you pick me up at 9 o'clock? We can't do that because there's no guarantee that you're going to get there by 10 if we pick you up at 9, because what if you're traveling from South San Antonio to the medical center? That's going to take a little time to get there. So you may not get there in an hour. And also we have to pick up other people along the way to make the trip cost effective. So the federal regulations establish these requirements and limitations that we complement fixed route bus service. And what that means is that we're like the baby sister of the fixed route bus service. We go where they go, we operate during the times that they operate. So, and we follow their rules and regulations. To give you an idea, ViaTrans service is available 365 days a year, just like the bus services. We cover 459 square miles. We serve all addresses within 3/4 of a mile from a bus route and all areas within Loop 410. So we operate 7 days a week, just like the bus, from 4 a.m. to 1 o'clock a.m. in our core service area. And then the service area changes slightly on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays when some bus routes outside of Loop 410 are not active. So we don't have the service when they shut down. I wanted to discuss a little bit about travel time on ViaTrans service, because I see a lot of people, especially newcomers to the service, complain about why does it take me an hour and a half on ViaTrans service, or why is there other people on there? Well, it is a shared ride service and we are complementary to fixed route service. So in order for us to make the trip as efficient and cost effective as possible, we take other people along on the trip. And under federal regulations, we cannot take longer than riding on a bus. So we always will be the same amount of time that, you know, somebody riding on a fixed route bus will take. And the reason we do this is because we need to make sure that we pick up everybody that wants to ride our service. Right now, we have about 2,500 people that are riding our service. And so in order to get everybody where they need to go, we have to make some adjustments. And that also means everybody wants to go to work or school or to an adult daycare center between the hours of 6 and 9 o'clock in the morning. And then they all want to go home between 2:30 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, we see an increase in ridership at those 2 times. Well, we can't spread out all those all those trips in more than an hour. So we try to fit everybody in as much as possible. And I want to give you an idea about travel time on Via-Trans service is that, let's say, for example, a paratransit vehicle picks up rider Helen at 2:15 in the afternoon and drops her off at 3:40 p.m. Now she thinks, my goodness, this trip took forever. However, whenever you're traveling more than 10 miles, it's going to take an hour and a half to 2 hours by bus. So it will take that amount of time on a Via-Trans vehicle. So in this case, the total trip time was 1 hour and 25 minutes. So if you want to check how long a trip is on a bus, you could either go to Google and say, well, this is my pickup and this is the destination and I'm leaving at 2:15. And it will tell you how long it would take on a bus. And that would be similar to Via-Trans service. However, Via-Trans service normally is faster than riding on a bus. And we try to be, because we don't want to keep people on our service, riding our van service that long. But we do understand that between the hours of 6 and 9 and 2:30 and 5, it may take that long because of the number of people wanting to ride our service. So some of the initiatives that we're taking for Via-Trans service, we have an introductory video for new customers on how to ride paratransit service. If you haven't seen it, you go to our VIA's website, and then you can go to Paratransit Services. And there, if you go further down, it says how to ride Via-Trans service. If you click in that area, there's a plus sign. There's 3 videos. They are in English, Spanish, and for the hearing disabled. So check that out. It goes through the motions of how people are picked up, where they're traveling, and gives you information about Via-Trans service. And that new customers are shown that video when they start our service. However, this has only been for the past, I think 2 or 3 years that we've done that. So we have new customer ID cards coming out called Go Card. They haven't, because of COVID, we haven't been able to finish giving everybody their Go Card. But with the Go Card, you can use it to tap on a Via-Trans service to pay for your tickets. And I guess customer service can help you with getting that information. You can also call our accessible services line and they'll be able to help you with that as well. We encourage people using Via-Trans online services, which is a software program that allows you to self-schedule your trips. And you can also track your trips with Via-Trans online services. So 1 hour before you're supposed to be picked up, you'll be able to see a message in the software that says that, I think it also says, how many minutes before the van comes to pick you up. Now be aware that it is not exact in the sense of it's right to the minute. There is some delay because it's sending messages to our program, and then the program sends the message to your cell phone. Now also your cell phone also has to be able to handle the data as well. So if you're not using a cell phone but a tablet, that probably makes it a lot easier. And then a laptop or a computer is another way of using it. Now there's some people who have riders who are not able to be left alone, and they want to see, when they're going to arrive at their destination. If they keep the app open, they can see that the vehicle is traveling and what time it drops off the rider. You can also use it like 1 hour or within that hour before the rider's pickup to see when they're going to arrive at your house to drop them off. So if you just keep it open, you can't close it. Once you close the app, then you lose that capability. So there's some neat things you can do with our Via-Trans online services program. And as Michael was saying earlier, we do have new 2021 paratransit vehicles that we're bringing into service. What we've done is grouped all the ambulatory seats in the front of the vehicle and all the people that can ride in wheelchairs in the back of the vehicle. That way they're not tripping over a wheelchair wheel or some of the belts that they put down to tie down the wheelchairs. So that's coming online now. They should be out exchanging the entire fleet by August of 2021. Of course, we have contracts with MV Transportation and Yellow Cab Taxi that they've also provide some service for us when demand is especially high in Via-Trans service. Michael talked about our new paratransit operations facility that's projected to be completed in 21, the end of this year, the beginning of 2022. And that will bring us all of Via-Trans in one facility so we could communicate better. And also we're closer to the medical facility that's up there for Wurzbach. So a lot of our trips originate from the medical center. So that will get us, our operators to pick up people there quicker and then take them home. So that's one of the things we're looking at as an improvement to service in 2022. And then we're also looking at service delivery and technology improvements with a new program that's being tested right now called NaviLens. So what it does, it's for someone where people, or it doesn't have to be someone with a visual impairment, anybody can use it on their cell phone as an app. It will let people know as you're getting closer to a bus stop, there's a bus stop, it'll pick it up on your phone and speak to you and tell you that you are close to the bus stop, and it will give you information about the bus stop. And there's about 33 different languages that it can speak to people in, English, Spanish, you name it. It can tell you how far away you are from the bus stop. You have to kind of hold it up at an angle of 160 degrees straight up, and then it will talk to you on your phone. And it doesn't matter what kind of weather it is or light conditions, it will still be able to function. And it makes the information about the bus stop, gives it to you, lets you know, is this bus stop closed down? Because some people, if they're visually impaired, they can't see the sign that says the bus stop is closed. So this will tell the rider that, yes, this bus stop is closed, and then, you have to walk to another one. So it guides riders to bus stops, and you can also get next bus arrival information on this. So right now it is in the testing phase. They started implementing it in April 2021. So they're ordering all the equipment because they're going to be testing it around with the Lighthouse for the Blind around that, on those bus routes, some of those bus routes. And there's a group of people that are testing it. So hopefully by the end of this year, I think it's about 7 months. So April, probably by the end of the year, they'll be able to determine how it works. Is it good for our riders to be able to use this? And then we try to implement it at that time. And then we'll share that information with everybody in the disability community who rides the bus service. This is strictly for the fixed route bus service. And that's basically all I have for updates.